Good day. The Primrose International Viola Archive is pleased to participate in this year's Viola Congress. We wish to thank Australia for hosting, for giving our archive this opportunity to let violists and viola enthusiasts of the world learn more about our archive. Representing the archive at the Congress in Australia is Myrna Layton. Let's take a closer look at the archive with her. The Primrose International Viola Archive is located in the United States, in the state of Utah, marked on this map with a big red X. The archive is located in the community of Provo, about an hour's drive south of Salt Lake City. The archive is a part of the library at Brigham Young University. Here we see the campus lying at the base of the Wasatch Mountains. Zooming in for a close-up, we can see the Harold B. Lee Library, which is the building in which the archive is housed. Returning for a close-up look at the interior of the archive, we find ourselves first in the Primrose Room, where we see wall-to-wall wood beautifully handcrafted by Nick Bruford and his company, the Artisans du Bois of San Diego, California. The idea was to create an atmosphere reminiscent of an old Scottish club. The focal point of this room is a glass case containing 2 instruments that Primrose owned, including a Ueda that he used while making his last recordings of the Bach suites in the Biddulph label, and a 1951 Pierre Vidude, an instrument Primrose liked to use while soloing in Europe, to honor its craftsman, who was a personal friend of his. The other viola in the case, the one in the middle, did not belong to Primrose. It was a gift of Franz Zehringer, and is a 5-string viola alta built in 1904 by Philip Keller, and commissioned by Hermann Ritter of Richard Wagner's Beirut Orchestra. The intention of the construction was to simplify some of the extremely difficult parts that Wagner wrote for the viola by adding an E string. Just behind the violas, we can see a bronze replica of the hands of William Primrose. The forms of these were taken 2 months before his death on May 1st, 1982. They show how broad his hands and fingers were, and how his pinky was genetically predisposed to play the viola. It was almost as long as his ring finger. Finally, the glass case holds a medal signifying the award Commander of the British Empire from Queen Elizabeth II, something Primrose was particularly fond of. Let's look very closely at the wooden cabinets that line the walls of the Primrose Room. Violas, primroses, and C-clefs have been lovingly featured into the details of the wood. Even the escutcheons that decorate the keyholes have tiny brass primroses on them. If we were to open the cabinets, we would find a documentary evidence of the life and work of William Primrose. For example, there are manuscripts of music he performed, among them his solo concerto parts, such as his working score for the Bartók Concerto. Also available for study are transcriptions. Primrose's black ink manuscript is small and clean, filled with colored pencil markings in blue or red. Some of the transcriptions were published, such as the Schubert's Litany for All Souls' Day, which came out in 1951, while others remained unpublished. William Primrose was an incredible letter writer, and much of his correspondence is in the archive. Here's one example. A letter from William Primrose to Mrs. Boris Kutzen, wife of a distinguished violinist, teacher, composer, and a founding member of the Chappaqua Orchestra. This brief letter shows so clearly the graciousness of William Primrose. August 16, 1938. Dear Mrs. Kutzen, I was astonished to learn from Boris yesterday that you had expected me to lunch. I most humbly and abjectly beg your pardon for my lapse. Apparently, Mrs. Primrose and I are at cross purposes for once. She imagined that I would attend anyhow, and I imagined as she was unable. I too was included when she had to decline, most regretfully, your so kind invitation. And here I was, sitting alone in the Lotus Club, twiddling my thumbs, when I could have been with you and Boris, and hearing the children play. A most upsetting reflection. There are letters to William Primrose from his friends, family, and colleagues, such as this example from Lionel Tertis, written in 1972 when Tertis was 96 years old. Tertis begins by reminding Primrose that, "I am not very well, having just completed the exhausting task at my age of an autobiography. My doctor, finding me at my desk with papers strewn, etc., has warned me to do nothing more and ordered a complete rest for 2 or 3 months." In this letter, Tertis gives a brief anecdote in which Primrose's request he had written for inclusion in a journal article which explains how Tertis came to switch from playing the violin to the viola, and his version of how Primrose came to make the switch. The letter ends this way: "May I therefore offer the following advice to good violinists. Take up the viola. There are not enough good viola players. They will find themselves, if they do so, in much greater request. There are more than enough good violinists, but not nearly enough good viola players." The memorabilia collection contains many treasures for good reading. Primrose's voluminous press book has a wealth of clippings and articles. Collected by Primrose's sister Jean, the press book makes for interesting reading, with clippings such as this one, dated January 13th, 1946, with the headline, "Violas are like bad boys and must stand in a corner at times, experts assert." Manuscripts, photos, press clippings, and many other items of interest to researchers can be found in the Primrose Room. The second and largest room in the archive is the PIVA room. PIVA is, of course, an acronym which stands for Primrose International Viola Archive. The shelves in this room are lined with thousands of viola scores. They are the circulating collection of viola scores, uniformly bound in red and white. Many sonatas, concertos, duos for violin, viola, violoncello, viola bass, and numerous other chamber music combinations representing composers from all over the world in the PIVA room. Viola music from Australia to Sweden is represented in the collection. A first-time visitor to the PIVA room, seeing this particular view, can't help but notice the 2 striking paintings. Let's take a closer look at them. Ben Carr Riley, son of violist Maurice Riley, painted Giants of the Viola. It depicts William Primrose surrounded by Vadim Borski, Lionel Tertis, Paul Hindemith, and Maurice Vieux, all violists worthy of emulation. Another painting, Homage to a Great Violist, was commissioned for the opening of the archive and was created by Emmanuel Vardy, a violist turned artist in oils. It was still wet March 1st, 2002 when it hung in the PIVA room. This room also boasts a bust of PIVA promoter and champion David Dalton, sculpted by Daniel Fairbanks and commissioned by Dalton's wife, Donna. The perimeter of the room is lined with photographs taken by Dr. Dwight Pounds, which capture violists' informal or funny moments. But the most important feature of the PIVA room are the shelves lined with thousands of viola scores. All of these scores are accessible through BYU's online catalog. When you go to our library's URL, this is what the screen will look like. Choose Find Books from this screen and then use the advanced keyword search option. If you type the words Primrose International Viola Archive and choose the Music and Dance Library from the drop-down menu, as has been done on this screen, your results will be a listing of the items contained in the viola collection. If you wish to eliminate the sound recordings, add Not Sound to your search string, and you will get a listing of nearly 7,000 scores featuring music for the viola. Conversely, if you would like to know about the viola sound recordings, add And Sound to your search string. When you see the size of the collection, you may be surprised, because it's quite extensive. If you are interested in a particular country's viola music held by PIVA, you can slightly modify the search. In this example, I have used Australia as an example. I typed in Primrose International Viola Archive and Australia $. The $ is the truncation symbol so that I would get results for both Australia and Australian. Searched in the Music and Dance Library, and found 102 scores held by PIVA that are from Australia. You can try the same sort of searching any other country or city name to discover holdings from other places in the world. For those of you interested in learning still more about the archive, there is also a website for the Primrose International Viola Archive. Let's take a closer look at the pages of the website. The introduction page will lead to a selection of short essays on topics listed on this slide. The biography page contains a brief biography of William Primrose, including many quotes that are interesting and inspirational to the viola aficionado. The photography collection follows William Primrose from babyhood through the last years of his life. Audio clips in MP3 format, furnished with the cooperation of Biddulph, are available for your listening pleasure. Video clips of Primrose in performance and an interview can be viewed from your home computer. Let's look at one just for a sample. New in the last several years are discographies of works recorded by both William Primrose and Lionel Curtis, with our thanks to discography creators Barlow Bradford and David Herman. There is an essay on violas and violists by Dr. David Dalton. In 2002, we created a database of all items new to the archive that were not referenced in Franz Zeiringer's 1985 publication, Literature for Viola. This listing can help the serious research to find music they may not find anywhere else. Another project has been to create a database of viola music that we have available on microfilm. In 1993, our archivist David Day was granted permission to film manuscripts from the viola collections of Dr. Ulrich Drunner from Stuttgart. A listing of these manuscripts, searchable by composer, is also available on the website. The Primrose International Viola Archive is in the process of acquiring the actual original manuscripts that make up this collection, a project that will greatly enrich archive holdings. The goal of the Primrose International Viola Archive is to truly be the international repository of viola music and violist memorabilia. We do not yet have every piece of music for viola in the archive, but we hope someday to reach that goal. While the archive bears the name of William Primrose, it is not just about him anymore. A man of personal humility, he would not mind sharing the spotlight with others who share his love for the viola. Music and papers from Franz Zeiringer, Walter Lieberman, David Dalton, Maurice Riley, Ernst Walfish, Paul Doctor, Harold Coletta, and Ulrich Drunner now augment the collection and attest that PIVA is truly an international archive. We hope to keep improving the collection and to keep improving access to its holdings through our websites. We hope that you will help us reach our goal by perhaps donating music to the archive or contacting us to recommend viola scores for purchase. At the Primrose competition held in Provo in 2005, Dr. Dwight Pounds posed the question, why do we do this? Why do we have viola competitions and congresses? Why do we maintain a viola archive? The answer he gave was, we do it for you. We do it to leave a legacy for those who love this instrument. We hope to build an archive that will exist for many, many years to come, a place that will honor the viola far into the future. We invite you to visit us either virtually at the website or even better in person, so you can experience the ambience of our wonderful Primrose International Viola Archive.